The voice of sharing, durian ASEAN.
Hi, welcome back again. This is Arlene and my co-host here, Gowri.
Hello.
And today we have a guest all the way from ASEAN Confidential, am I correct? His name is Hafiz No Shams. He's a researcher there, and we are going to talk about Iskandar Malaysia, an analysis of its property markets REITs. So you have been involved in sort of like research on the development of the property there.
Yeah, we did a research last year about October to September about the property market in Iskandar. Basically, focusing on Danga Bay because Danga Bay is the one seems to be having a lot of development and seems to be the one that are having a little bit of problem compared to Nusajaya, for instance. Nusajaya is doing pretty well, I think.
Mm-hmm. When you say a lot of some problems facing problems, what kind of problems that they're having?
I think if you go around Danga Bay especially, it's quite clear that there's a lot of development going on over there. People are rushing in to build anything, I suppose. Because of that, we think that there is an oversupply of properties over there, especially oversupply condominiums and apartments, strata properties. Because you look at numbers, it's huge. One development in Danga Bay, especially Country Gardens, for instance, is more than 10,000 units. They're building more than 10,000 units. So that's not just one condominium tower, it's probably 10 or 9, I don't remember anymore, but it's thousands of units. So when we go there and we visited all of these showrooms, there seems to be having problem if you compare it to the one in Kuala Lumpur. In Kuala Lumpur is typical, if you it's a big project, it's typical you see that the booking rates are probably about 80%, 90%. It's really hard to get a property in KL. In Danga Bay, it was 60%,
so
70%.
My interest is why the demand is not there yet, or is it because the problem is more on the oversupply part rather than trying to or the demand has dropped?
I'm not quite sure whether the demand had dropped. I think the demand wasn't there in the first place, because first of all, Danga Bay and all this thing, I think, was mostly catered to foreigners. So they were betting on Singapore, for instance. It's a good long run story, but in the short term, probably next 5 or 4 years, they're having a problem because the local are not buying too much. We did a research, we did a survey of some sort. The locals over there prefer landed properties, for instance, and there's a lot of land still in Johor.
So it's a matter of taste, isn't it?
I think so. Also at the same time, the condominium properties are hugely expensive compared to...
How much is the price? I mean, an average compared to landed properties?
I don't remember anymore, but it's typical to be 600,000. I don't know. Don't remember anymore. But, you know, if you think in terms of landed properties and condominium apartment, it's generally you get much larger space in landed properties compared to condominiums.
I guess maybe the locals has never been their main target for... main target for them to sell the properties. But what about the Singaporeans? I mean, are they originally like the main focus of the property development there?
I think so, definitely. I mean, when I also met the Iskandar Authority, I don't remember the name anymore. They will say that people are already commuting between Iskandar and Singapore. I mean, foreigners commuting from Iskandar to Singapore working. So they had that in mind. But again, I think it takes some time for this to happen, because in the next 3 years or 4 years, you see all this thing completed by 2016 or 18. You're probably going to see a sort of a ghost town. So the demand going to take time to catch up.
So when you talk about ghost town, meaning that
We shouldn't say ghost town. You know?
Okay,
we should say that it's going to take some time to get in.
I think in a lot of like property development, usually it would take a bit more time, unless those lands are really very is a well-developed lands. I mean, in terms of the community and the people there. But when it comes to like new towns, usually it would take times for people to like move in.
Yeah, I guess so.
But businesses to move on.
I mean, in some ways, Danga Bay is pretty close to JB. JB is a big town. I should call it a city, but it's a big town. But it's just that the number of supplies coming in is just huge. I don't think demand can cope up in the next couple of years because of that. Even in KL, there's a lot of complaints that prices are high, but at least in KL, there's demand for it. In fact, there's lack of I think there's a supply shortage in KL, but in JB it's the other way around. It's a supply glut over there.
Why do you think they oversupply it? I mean, they could have foresee.
I don't know. I think because the biggest development of that is Country Gardens, and they just wanted to get out of China, I suppose. And they were tightening in China. So I guess because it's tightening in China, maybe they thought it was a good idea to go out to some places in KL, in Malaysia, for instance.
One of the interesting part, I think, of this property markets in the area that you did your research is also, in a way, majority of the buyers are not just non-Malaysian and non-Singaporean. They are actually Chinese from China.
It's not. I wouldn't call them buyer, but I don't know. I suppose I shouldn't say that. But
investor.
Would that
be the better term?
No, because the story that I heard is that because Country Gardens is huge, it's one of the biggest property developer in China. What they did is that they sold a property in China and then they give one for free in Iskandar. So that's why there's a lot of Chinese buyers in JB.
But what kind of prospect do they see in Danga Bay?
Well, Danga Bay probably 10 years time probably going to be something great. I mean, it's close to Singapore. I mean, the long-term story are pretty convincing. The properties in Singapore is many times higher than in JB and KL or in Iskandar. So the long-term story is there, but it's just the demand coming in too quickly. So that's the issue. I think in the next 5 years going to be a problem, but probably 10 years time will probably be good. It's like Putrajaya, right? When you first built, but Putrajaya wasn't built that quickly. Although I guess you could say something else, but Putrajaya now is sort of there's no bubble over there. I mean, people are staying there, their demand. But that took 10 years, 15 years. So the same story can be Danga Bay. Except it's kind of Danga Bay, like I said, it's a lot of too many properties coming in. 16,000 for one development only.
But the thing about, I mean, for example, Putrajaya is built. It has a purpose for it. I mean, it's a hub for government departments and also ministries and all that. But for Danga Bay, it's purely a commercial area.
Well, it's a residential area, it's a condominium. But compared to Putrajaya, there's actually just JB. JB is I can say is a thriving city a little bit because people are staying there. It's a huge city. It's not Ipoh. Ipoh is small, but.
So other things, when you say the reports that I am seeing here, besides the oversupply, is also debt.
Yeah. I mean, this is a lot of people have been saying. I mean, the authority are a bit concerned that household debt is about 87% to GDP in 2013. So the thing is, because house prices, if you look back to KL, going away from Iskandar, to KL, prices have been going up pretty crazily. I mean, in Bangsa South, for instance, is a development, Southview, I think. In 2013, it was 600,000 for 500 or 600 square foot apartment, something like that. But in Pusupute, it's about 5 kilometers away, very close by in the neighborhood. I checked earlier this year; it was already 800,000 for the same amount of the same unit. I don't see any difference in your quality, but you could see prices coming up.
But don't you think, prices coming up? I mean, jumping way up high in a lot of city areas, especially, is it a global trend instead of just like a JB thing or KL thing?
Well, it's globally, the also prices going up, but I think in terms of Kuala Lumpur, it's so important to see it within local context. I mean, if you go places in London, for instance, prices going up, and my friends over there are saying that it's impossible to buy an apartment. But I think the thing that causing price and scale going up is just local context. I mean, a liberal foreign ownership, for instance, ownership rules. Foreigner can just buy it. And then previously it was because of what you call that real don't remember RPGT. Not RPGT, something else. Can't remember the name. Basically, you can just borrow for the bank without servicing the debt until the completion of the apartment. So that I think that help people help prices go up because people can just buy and not put in anything for the next 3 or 4 years until completed. So that causes a lot of demand because it's cheap. Financing was cheap. And then I guess you can say taxes was low. So all these things. And then population growth as well. I think population growth is the main driver, really. It was 5 million. Even the government thinks that a population in Greater KL, for instance, is going to go to 10 million in 2020. I don't know. But if that's true, then there's a huge pressure for properties. It's just not enough. So prices have to go up because of that.
You also compare it to other countries when it comes to like oversupply and debt in terms of the property markets. And the risk. So what did you find out about it?
Well,
in other major cities in Southeast Asia.
Well, because the report, they had a couple of researchers, so I was focusing on Malaysia. But the thing I noticed is that in KL, for instance, there's a chart in our report that shows the median prices of houses in KL, and the median house in KL is about 800,000. The median basically mean that the middle apartment in the secondary market costs about 800,000, but in Jakarta, for instance, it's much lower. If you look at the distribution as well, in Jakarta, it's sort of this high. There's a lot of properties on the lower end, and then it goes down. That means that there's a lot of affordable properties over there. But in KL, it's more like a bell shape. So it's not even a bell shape. It's like it's a bell curve, but it's skewed towards the more expensive parts. So that shows that there's a lack of, there's not enough affordable properties, I suppose, in KL. It's more higher price properties are around. Whereas KL is about also KL, PJ, Subang Jaya, the close by townships.
Do you think the government should control in terms of the prices? At least put some sort of like bracket to certain property prices.
It's really hard to do that. I mean, if you put brackets, then
because I think in terms of businesses, they will always want to rack it up as long as there will be buyers to buy them, and especially foreigners. A lot with globalization and China's opening up, there's a lot of like middle income to upper middle income society from other countries wanting to get a hold on properties, especially in places like, for example, Dangabe. So do you think the government should do some sort of interventions?
They probably can do time intervention, but I generally a little bit weary about government controls. I think, my personal opinion is that people are too excited about properties. People think that to own a property is a sign of success in life. But if you look at it financially, it's not really a good idea to have a property. I mean, it's good investment. Property prices have been rising, although that probably won't be true for all times, but it's been rising for the past, especially in the past 4 years, especially in 2010, 2011. But if you think of personal finances, I think you have to consider other options like renting, for instance.
Renting is big in countries like Switzerland, isn't it?
Well, I don't know that, but between renting and financing a mortgage, renting is much more affordable. If you rent and then you can save all these things, the difference between paying your mortgage and your rental rate, you can probably save that and invest in something else. So these are the options that people should explore. I think if government want intervention, government should stop incentive for home purchases and provide incentive for renting, for instance. I think renting is much more sustainable for a lot of people. And the way the government is encouraging home ownership, but I think that's not a responsible thing to do because, there's a lot of things going on. There's population rising. and there's a pressure on properties and prices will go up. I mean, the government is getting into the market by, I mean, this is One Malaysia Home Program, right?
Yeah, the housing program
so they're
under the government's
they're building
welfare
affordable homes here and there. If I'm not mistaken, it's below 300,000 per unit. I don't remember. That could help. But again, personally, I think people should move away from the home ownership model and towards renting. It's much more sustainable. Even if you go to like big cities, you don't really see any development anymore.
Renting aside, but what about a lot of people complain about the rental economy, where, owners of properties are making a lot of money by doing nothing, by just renting out.
Yeah, still, it's much cheaper than owning a property. Even right now, you could go to Bangsa, a 1 million property, maybe the rental rate would be 2,000. If you mortgage, it's going to be 4,000 per month. So you save 2,000. So if you save or you invest in mutual funds, for instance, or even if you put in ESB, if you Bumi Putra, you earn 6% per year.
I see. We will continue again. I'll just take a short break with one song.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The voice of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
Hi, we are back again. This is Arlene and Gowri here, and together with our guest Hafiz Noor Shams, continue talking about the property markets risk. So, we have I think gear away from Iskandar Malaysia, and we talk more about property markets in cities. But let's go back to Iskandar again. So what else that you, based on your research, that you discovered about the Dangan Bay area, besides the oversupply and the Chinese, the main buyers there, and it's still like very much empty in terms of the town itself?
Well, the infrastructure are there. The roads are smooth. When I first got to JB last year, I was surprised how good infrastructure is. So they really invested in it. There was also a bus service from Reseaarcher to JB via Dangan Bay, I think. So you see their work being done. Infrastructure are there. Right now they're just building those condominiums and stuff.
So are you saying that you are optimistic that in probably in a couple of years, actually the place will eventually like become like a city, another city itself, or a town?
Probably in 10 years, not in a couple of years. Couple of years probably going to have problem with demand, but the long-term story is there. I mean, Singapore is right next by. Singapore doesn't have enough land. Prices over there is outrageous, and Singapore is a global city. It's just a matter of time when JB gonna go up there. Iskandar as a whole, and there's a lot of investment going on in Iskandar. I mean, there are schools, there are studios, there are hospitals. Even on the east coast of JB, Petronas is building a huge oil and gas investment, and then they're talking about a third bridge going to the industrial area, which is gonna be, a bridge to the area makes more sense than the second bridge that we have right now.
I'm just wondering. I mean, a lot of the buyers are non-Malaysians, and I don't know whether that is one of the plan of Iskandar Malaysia. But what about the locals around there? I mean, it seems like it's creating just a bubble within the Dangan Bay area for expats and people who are non-Malaysians, to create like a bubble community.
Yeah, there is danger of that, because even in Reseaarcher there's gated properties, so they in some sense are isolated from the local communities, especially if you have these foreigners living in Reseaarcher, for instance, and commuting to Singapore. They probably won't interact with local that much. Even in KL, if you see all these expats, they don't really mix around.
Yeah, but the thing is, KL and and Johor is two different places, and they have. I mean, I think the culturally the locals in JB might be a bit different from in KL, or what you call Bangsa for the recent one. So when it comes to the local communities, that do they have any like sort of like objection or dissatisfaction?
I've heard here and there. With definitely some political issues going on over there. I think even the authorities realize this, and they are doing a lot of what we call that CSR, I suppose. I mean, there are objection. There's environmental objection. There's a lot of reclaiming going on over there, and it's hurting.
Because it's driving up the prices of even the local businesses, isn't it? I mean, when
Yeah.
you have more foreigners coming in, living there, investing, and also spending money, and it's to businesses. To them, it's naturally they will raise up their prices.
Yeah, but
and it will hurt the local communities, isn't it?
well, I guess it's a matter of distribution. I mean, if you have more people in JB and they are spending in JB, and that's part of the objective of developing Iskandar. They want people to spend in JB. So if you have these people living in JB, they would spend there, because right now, what the authority been telling us is that a lot of JB itself is not an attraction. Nobody care about JB. For Singaporean, for instance, they only stop in JB for refueling and then go to Genting, KL, Malacca. So they want to change that. They want Singaporeans to go to JB, or foreigners go to JB because of JB. So if you have all these foreigners living in JB, I mean, they are bad side and good side. The good side is that they're probably going to see job creation, raising income for locals. But in terms of properties, I don't think it's benefiting them. They probably won't buy it. They probably can afford to buy it. So they're good and bad.
So when do you think that the demand for the properties in the area that you did the research will raise eventually? I mean, the situation right now is not really positive. It seems like a lot of people, they don't really, because of certain issues like the prices, and the way it is still not a well-developed place yet. But when eventually do you think the place would catch up? Would get more buyers to come in?
Okay, I should say that right now there's not so much a problem because they're still building it. The problem is its prospect. Because all these properties are targeted to be completed in 2016, 17, 18. So that's when problem gonna come. Probably 19. And then,
okay.
That's when the problem gonna come, because it's a huge amount of completed properties, and demand is not there. Probably 4 years later or 3 years later, I don't know. It probably takes some years after that, after 2018, for demand to catch up. I think.
See. And also, you stated here that the state government is proposing a new policy.
Oh, that was old, because this was written last year.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think they didn't. I mean, they tried to raise the. I don't remember which tax, but they raised it double, I think. But that's have no effect on foreigners, because foreigners look at it and then they don't really care about it. It's still low.
Okay.
There's also the government at the same time during the last budget, they raised the minimum level of the minimum price the foreigner can purchase, which is 1 million. Previously was 500, I think, or something like that. So they raised it. So yeah, so that probably would affect property in Iskandar, because some property in Iskandar that price less than that would have less demand from foreigners. So in local, I don't think local going to buy these condominium.
So another dimension of this that I'm seeing at the bigger picture, because I think the government is proposing a greater KL, which means that it wants to connect from Singapore to KL, and JB would probably be in the middle of that. How do you see this, the Iskandar Malaysia fit into the bigger picture there?
In terms of connecting KL and Singapore, I'm not quite sure how it fits into Iskandar, because Iskandar has been, as far as I understand it's meant as a suburb of Singapore. It's meant to serve property demand from Singapore, all the services there. So in terms of connecting Singapore and KL, I think that's a different matter altogether. It also matter of connecting JB as well, but I don't think it's connected. It's a little bit. in some ways. Yeah, it's mostly about connecting KL and
so
Singapore.
it will be a bubble on its own. I mean, in terms of
Oh,
the development.
It's gonna be a satellite of Singapore.
Satellite.
Yeah.
Satellite of Singapore.
Yeah.
Okay, so who are the major investors in property investors?
Property investors?
In terms of companies?
I'm not quite sure about property investors, but property developers. Property developers, the country gardens are the biggest. There's China, and there's a SPCA is huge as well. I think SPCA mostly have mature properties over there, doing pretty well, I guess. There's obviously. Is doing pretty well. It seems in Nusa Jaya, because in Nusa Jaya, property seems to be all sold out. Again, I want to stress that having problem is the one in Danga Bay and the condominiums. In Nusa Jaya seems to be doing pretty well. There's also Gamuda. I think Gamuda has already completed their project, I think. I don't remember the name anymore, but if you drive from JB to Nusa Jaya, you could see Gamuda on the right side. So those are gated properties. So yeah, you could say in some way it's mostly catering to the upper class society. So I don't think local. I mean, there are some affordable homes over there.
But is it the main goal of these developers to create this kind of like lifestyle and class of society within the Iskandar Malaysia area?
I don't know. I don't know whether intended or not, but it seems that seems to be what's happening right now. There are housing projects that cater to affordable homes, but the projects are not really right next to these, like for instance, Medini or the luxury apartments or luxury properties.
So apart from Iskandar Malaysia, do you do other research on other property development as well?
Well, we're not really a property researcher. We're mostly interested in the Malaysian economy, so we go here and there about its various industries and see what's going on from Malaysia and update our clients on what's going on over Malaysia. So property is just one aspect. We only done 2 research on properties. It's just one in Iskandar or Danga Bay specifically, and one in KL. Even in KL, the one we were analyzing was just in terms of debt, in terms of household debt, whether it's sustainable or not, whether people can afford this house or not.
So what was the discovery then? In the one in KL?
Oh, the one in KL, I think I said it's just now. I think it is a clear shortage of affordable homes. Median is 800,000, so you could see that 50%. I mean, the way we did it is that we sort of mine all the data from the secondary market. There's about 20,000 properties, 30,000 properties in Malaysia alone, in KL alone. So we do that, and then we did some analysis. We sorted it out based on prices, or sorted it out based on properties, or whatever it is. 50% of that is actually worth more than 800,000.
Oh, I see.
So that's huge. In Jakarta, it was much less. In Jakarta, the median was, I think, 50% of Malaysian median.
But that's also because their currency and their living
standard
is
it's not really a currency matter. Because we sorted it out based on local prices. So the median, you can see the median.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So in this is just a curiosity about KL. So if the housing there are majority 800,000, do you think government intervention is the best solution, or do you think there should be other ways of either communities or developers or even or the government can sort of put a control over prices and allow people from different socio-economic groups to be in the city and not drive away people from the lower economic groups away from the city?
Well, I think the government is already imposing a couple of restrictions. For instance, today I read in the news the housing ministry imposed something. I haven't read the paper, but something about people cannot buy 4 houses, something. Not buy. You can buy, but you have to register with some controller or something like that. So
probably it wants to restrict the rental
it wants to restrict speculation, I suppose. A lot of people buy properties and then buy in huge quantities and then they sell it back for profits. In terms of government intervention, I'm not really that warm about government intervention, but But there are ways to do this. I don't think you can control price. If you control price, then you just increase demand and properties won't. Supply won't catch up. So that's a bit of a problem. Like I said, you could give incentive for rental, make rental more affordable even in the cities. You could follow the Singaporean model when the government build HDB and then they have a higher purchase kind of thing. So you pay.
Do you think the One Malaysia scheme for affordable houses is similar to the HDB or it's totally different thing?
Well, it's affordable housing. I'm not quite sure whether it's the same thing or not, but the idea is to increase the amount of affordable properties in the cities. But it also has to be realistic. If in the research that we did, in KL, the median price was 800,000. In PJ, 700,000. In Kajang was 600 or 500,000, or something like that. So, in some ways, you probably want to make it more affordable for people to commute from these places rather than control prices. So you build infrastructure to cater for a bigger city. So that can take some time.
Especially public transportation. I think that's the big, lacking point in the major cities in Malaysia. In Malaysia as a whole.
So this infrastructure takes time. I'm not quite sure the MRT MRT alone not going to do it. It's probably going to need a lot more buses, a lot more frequent buses, lot more reliable.
And you have to be effective as well and efficient.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Prices in scale are always going to go up because of demand. A lot of people want to work in the city rather than somewhere else. A lot of people commute. So if for me, for instance, I don't like government intervention that much, so I would prefer, and then at the same time I look at the reality and that there are places cheaper out there, so government should look at this area and provide connection to the city, a much better connection. That would, it took me, I live right across city, and this here is in Tambahage, right? So it took me about an hour taking on a train, just because
you could have been faster, right?
Yeah, just because there's too many people in the train, I couldn't get on the train. It's enough train. The train was moving really slowly, and I could see train in front of me because the infrastructure is not there. It cannot support the amount of population over there. So if the existing infrastructure is like that, you imagine if a lot more people live outside of KL, a lot more people. So if people commute, you do not have infrastructure. So it's really hard. In terms of what we call that, housing needs. So you have to invest on this infrastructure. I don't know how. I really don't know how. But you have to invest some ways.
It'll be your next research work.
You have to make it sustainable to live in this small city outside KL.
Anyway, thank you very much for speaking with us and sharing your views.
Yeah. Thank you.